People can benefit with this information. What is the eligibility criteria for VA loans?
VA loans are typically going to be a bit more flexible than your...
Yeah, I want to talk to you.
Most lenders are going to do their best to help our veterans because they obviously have served their country and deserve that benefit of home ownership. It's going to vary as far as scoring is concerned, your credit scores, but most lenders these days you can see go down as low as about a 580 mid credit score. Debt ratios, they're calculated a bit different than your conventional products, but I would say that you can go as high as 55 and sometimes even 60% on your back end debt ratio because it's a different calculations. It's what we refer to as an expense ratio. Everything else from a borrowing standpoint is going to be very similar. So all the same documentation is going to be required. Obviously, you do have to be a veteran to qualify for a VA loan and have what's called a certificate of eligibility.
And how can they obtain a certificate of eligibility or a COE?
You can get that through the VA portal. Sometimes I can be a faster means to get that for you. So if a vet is busy, with day-to-day tasks, your job, etc., and you need help getting your certificate of eligibility, typically I can get that for you with your name, date of birth, and social. I can log into the portal. And most times you can just electronically download it. In some rare cases, if you were recently granted the COE or certificate of eligibility, or if you have a very common name, in some cases we have to manually request it, which takes a little bit longer. But generally speaking, it's an instant process that can be done right through the VA portal.
That's great. What about the down payment? I know that most of the time they can do zero down payment. Is that still the case? And how can they be eligible for that?
Yes, if you have your full VA entitlement available and or as long as your available entitlement covers the cost of the home that you're looking to purchase, in most cases you can qualify for 0% down payment. In some cases, maybe you're using what we call a subsequent use, where you've previously used your VA loan and maybe a portion of it is being utilized on another property. Then depending on the purchase price, it may prevent you from getting the 0%. But again, as long as that VA benefit is not being utilized on another property, then in most cases you should be able to qualify for zero down payment option.
Okay. And I know they do not need a private mortgage insurance. Is that accurate?
Yes. A VA loan, in my opinion, is probably one of the best mortgage products out there, not only because of what we've already gone over, the zero down option, right, but also the flexibility in the underwriting. As you mentioned, there's no mortgage insurance required. Most loans, if you're putting less than 20% down, you're either going to have to MI or mortgage insurance. There are loans that claim to have prepaid or no MI, but you're generally going to see an increase in cost, whether it be your interest rate or the cost to get the loan. So in a way, you're still paying one way or another. With a VA loan, you don't have to worry about any of that, which is a huge benefit.
Correct. They can save a lot of money with that.
Absolutely.
What about the VA funding fee? Is that required to be paid, or how can it be waived?
There are cases in which you can waive your VA funding fee. Generally speaking, if you have less than a 10% designated or VA-related disability, you will have to pay a VA funding fee. The amounts of the funding fee vary based on how many times you've used your VA benefit and how much money you put down. For example, your VA funding fee, if it's your first use and you're putting less than 5% down, the funding fee is 2.15%. If you're putting down 5% or more as your down payment, the funding fee is 1.5%. And if you're putting 10% or more down as your down payment, your funding fee would be 1.25%. Now, after your first use, if it's your second, third, etc., and you're putting down less than 5%, your funding fee would be 3.3%. 5% down or more on the down payment would be 1.5%, and then 10% or more on your down payment would be 1.25% for that funding fee.
So it varies all around.
Right. But again, if you have a 10% or higher VA designated disability rating, then you don't have to worry about the funding fee at all.
Got it. What about the closing cost and seller concession? Does it work the same as the regular loans, or is it different?
Pretty similar. There is a little bit of a difference, which is an increased benefit for our veterans. On a VA loan, you can typically get a max seller concessions of 4%. However, in addition to the 4%, if you are able to max that out at the 4% and negotiate 4% seller concessions, you can actually add to that any reasonable closing costs. So in some cases, you're able to get even more than 4% seller concessions. But generally speaking, to keep it simple, you want to plan on being able to max out about 4% seller concessions for a VA loan.
Well, thank you so much, Eddie. I know you said documents that are needed are almost the same as a regular loan as well. Anything else that you want to add for the information that they can have?
Yeah, so aside from your certificate of eligibility, which would be unique to a VA loan, everything else is pretty similar as far as documentation. That would be your income, assets, and credit documentation. Your income would consist of your last 2 years W-2s, your 2 most recent paycheck stubs. Assets is generally going to be your 2 most recent statements for whatever account your down payment or cash to close funds would be coming from. Then we're going to run your credit application. The only other thing that would be required on a VA loan that's not typically required on other loans is a pest inspection. We usually recommend that you get an inspection on every home. It's not a lender requirement, but I always recommend that you get one. Typically, if you're getting a regular inspection, the inspector can work out a deal, or in most cases will work out a deal on the pest inspection. So if you're already getting an inspection, you just want to make sure to ask for that pest inspection as well.
Okay, but that pest inspection, it is required for the VA.
Yes, that is a requirement on a VA loan, which is not typically required on most other loans.
Well, thank you so much, Eddie. And if you guys need to reach out to me, I can be reached out via text or call 941-348-9831.
And you can reach me at 281-304-6353.